few teams that have made it into the playoffs and are still alive, bolstered by strong rookie classes. Of course, there are teams that are no longer in the playoffs looking forward to next year, but their 2018 rookie class gives them a lot of hope. We're going to run through the top 5 rookie classes in 2018. We're using wins above replacement to measure the value for each of these players. So essentially what we're doing is we're saying, how valuable is what this player did on a play-for-play basis using PFF grading to say how well that player played, and then obviously where they played to determine the value here. So we're going to start with the Colts, the Lions, and the Chargers, 5 through 3. What do you find most interesting about these rookie classes?
Yeah, a couple things. So with the Colts and with the Chargers currently in the playoffs, currently alive here, you see 2 really great things about draft approaches, right? With the Indianapolis Colts, they traded back. They had 3. They had a franchise quarterback in their back pocket. They trade back to 6. They get an accumulation of a ton of second-round picks and pick 6. Pick 6 was Quentin Nelson. Darius Leonard was one of their second-round picks. Not every pick has worked out, but the ones that have really made an impact on that playoff team as they're surging here. The Chargers, they didn't move up in the draft, right? They saw Chahrouri James. They saw a bunch of teams, your favorite included, passing on him and sitting there in your lap. It's not really a great decision. It's just allowing one of the best players in the draft to fall to you at 17. He's been a transcendent player, great in coverage, erasing tight ends, great in run defense. We saw that against Baltimore on Sunday, and as a pass rusher. So the Los Angeles Chargers, their luck out. Sometimes it's better to be lucky than good there. So with those 2 teams in the playoffs, we really see how 2 very smart draft approaches, trading back and simply just waiting in many cases, can cause you to have, I think, franchise-altering players.
Yeah, you mentioned it. Chahrouri James allowing tight ends a sub-40 pass rating. When targeted in his coverage, he has been tremendous, playing everything from linebacker, edge rusher, to deep safety for the Chargers. And the Lions, they pick a running back. We know that running backs generally, their value over the course of their career is going to be lower than a lot of different positions. But at the very least, Kerryon Johnson has shown the ability to catch passes, which has allowed him to generate some value. And Deshaun Hand has been a nice piece for them. Interestingly, Frank Ragnow, not quite so much in terms of value, at least this season.
Yep.
Okay, the top 2, very interesting because they also held the top 2 picks in the NFL draft. The Giants at number 2 and the Browns at number 1. Now, this is a ranking, and it's important to know that a ranking and the distance between the 2 teams can be very different. So explain that.
Yeah, so Cleveland gets about 4 wins with their draft class, whereas the Giants about 1.5, 2, and for a calibration for that metric, it's pretty good, right? The Giants were 3-13 a season ago, 5-11 this year. A transcendent running back, which Barkley was, leading basically all running backs in terms of tackles broken, over 1,700 total yards on the ground and through the air. He was great, but it wasn't necessarily enough to elevate that Giants team into playoff contention, whereas with Baker Mayfield, Denzel Ward, you're getting a Cleveland team that went from 0 wins to 7 wins, a couple breaks here and they're in the playoff contention. And when I look at the distinction between these 2 teams, not only do I see Cleveland having the better value in 18, but I also see, because of the difference between quarterback and running back, I see Cleveland moving forward having more value through this draft if we continue to add up after 2019, 2020, etc.
Let's not forget the Browns took a pretty darn good running back themselves in the 2nd round. Yep. If the Giants continue to progress and actually get a quarterback, we could see that number grow by quite a bit, but it's just hard to really get your team to the next level without a quarterback. That's basically what we see year in and year out. The guys that are accumulating the most wins above replacement every single season are quarterbacks, and there's a reason for that. They impact the game like no other. The Giants had a couple of other nice picks. B.J. Hill, late in that draft, has been a plus player for them, as has Lorenzo Carter. The Browns, of course, they picked up a bunch of players throughout that draft that have been good, none quite as good as Baker Mayfield, though. So let me ask you this. Looking back on that draft, the Giants took Barkley at 2. Should they have taken Darnold?
I think so. I mean, Darnold was a below replacement level player for much of the season. However, his surge at the end, he was the highest graded quarterback in our system for a 3 or 4 week stretch. Down the stretch there, he eventually, emerged and had a respectable WAR by the time the season was over. Again, one season, quarterbacks take time to mature. So when you're looking at the Jets, you're looking at the Cardinals, you're looking at the Buffalo Bills and the Baltimore Ravens. I think you really have to, take a look at what this draft gave you, 5 years from now as opposed to after one season. So unless you have a quarterback like Mayfield who balls out in year one, oftentimes the running back with 1 year in the rearview mirror is going to look better, but I still will go with Darnold.
So check back with us in 5 years when we'll go over this draft class, but that is a really good point. This is not about 1 year. Neither of these teams are in the playoffs. They are trying to win a Super Bowl, and it will take a few years regardless. So you'll have to kind of be patient with that. And perhaps in 5 years, we'll look back and we'll say, okay, Saquon Barkley did eventually reach Tariq Cohen levels of production, and maybe that'll make it all worth it. For more, head to ProFootballFocus.com, subscribe to the PFF forecast, and of course, check in with us in 5 years when we recap this draft class.